you get a better idea of, I think you get a decent,
Yep.
mind the blue computer glow there. Let's talk about our malt. Okay, so our malt is kind of uber traditional in many respects, okay, in terms of production. So we're actually using Golden Promise barley. For the geeks in the industry, they know that's, very 1960s old school. We have a traditional lauter tun and underback. I mean, it's very similar except for the mechanized stuff to actually remove the grain from the tun, which I would love to have, by the way. I mean, it's just like you'd see at a Bruichladdich or something like that. Old school. Okay. So we do that, and we run it all off. The first key difference in what you'll find is rather than fermenting in like 70 hours, which is typical of almost all distilleries, we're looking at like 7 days. Okay? We're really wanting the yeast to take their time. It's more like a brewer would approach it. Now, we're not doing a brewer's fermentation. We're not, just adding, we are just adding a couple of cultured yeasts, but intentionally encouraging a lactic fermentation toward the end. It's a little bit more like maybe a Belgian brewer would do than a traditional, European, or I should say, German or American brewer, what have you. But long, slow fermentations. We won't get into yeast biochemistry, but this is the key point for us. Yeast are living creatures. Living creatures do not like to be worked to death. And when you get them to ferment up to 104 degrees, which is the point at which they die, and to do so quickly, they make stinky smells. And when you give them lots of friends and lots of love and lots of time, they make pretty smells. So that's all the yeast biochemistry we'll go into today. But it's a key part of our production process, a key part of the malt. A lot of fruit, a lot of roundness, a lot of grain that comes through in this because we aren't having to either age it out or distill it out. That is to say, not having to age out or distill out the rough edges that are coming off the still because the fermentation's fast. Okay, long fermentation. Second is cooperage. We talked a little bit about that earlier, but just touching on it briefly, you can tell even by the color, kind of like wheat coffee, I guess you could say. There's a lot more wood than you're going to see in a traditional single oil. Not all our barrels are first fill barrels. They all come to us new. I talked a little bit about the custom wood program that we have, but you're going to see a lot more wood influence, and you're going to see a lot different wood influence. The yard aging gives a different flavor. You're going to see a lot more cinnamon, a lot less coconut, a lot less sort of sappy components, and more sort of toasty vanilla wafer components. It's a different animal. So we bottle this pretty much always at 53% now. You'll see some bottles. For the last year and a half, I've been going up a little and down a little, but I think you're going to see between 50 and 54, almost certainly 53%. The first thing that's kind of interesting for whiskey lovers out there is if you call yourself an American whiskey / bourbon whiskey lover and not really care so much for malt, this is still one you might want to try. There are a lot of people, and just so clear, I love malt whiskey. That is to say, I love traditional Scottish, Irish, Japanese, but not everybody does. But this doesn't have some of the same notes in it. It has a lot more round, sweet notes in it, like a bourbon might. But a lot of the subtlety that a malt drinker is looking for as well. So you're going to get a lot of forward fruit, apples, pears, certainly a banana component from the fermentation. A lot of sort of sweet toastiness and vanilla comes through from the wood. It has a really sort of nice integrated, that's one thing I'm always looking for, is something that hits you kind of this one thing, and you got to sit and think about how to pick it apart. Integration of flavor. And there is a nice sort of warm, toasty, malty, fruity thing going on there. Drink spirits that are really nice commentary on the malt. So I'll refer people to that. It's probably 2 pages long. No need for me to repeat a lot of that. But it's definitely one that you should try if you're into either malt whiskey or American. Okay.